Good morning, children. What's happening? Today, we are talking about some really fundamental learning. I'm sure you guys have heard about this stuff in the past, but we've got to touch on it because it really is the foundation for everything else that we do when it comes to language. We've learned about these different techniques in terms of structure and sound and figurative language, but all of those depend ultimately on diction. And more importantly, within diction, the ideas of denotation, connotation, mood, and tone. So we're going to just quickly review what these things are so that the next time we see each other, we can more effectively look at Atwood's pieces through the lens of, okay, how does her diction affect her ideas? How does it help us understand what she's trying to get across? So just to remind everybody, diction is just the purposeful choice of words used in a piece of writing. Okay? Writers select words very carefully, just like they select structures very carefully, just like they select topics very carefully, just like painters select colors and shading and value. Okay? These words are selected because they will have specific effects. Okay? We select it primarily based on the concept of connotation, which we'll get to in just a minute. First, though, denotation. So denotation is just the most basic meaning of a word. It's the literal meaning of a word. So it's whatever the dictionary says. It's its most basic meaning. So if we look at the words smarty pants, genius, and nerd, we have three different words there, but at their root, they all have the same denotation. They all mean basically the same thing. Somebody who is intelligent. Now let's think about this together here, okay? So we've got this word angry. Go ahead and pause our video and try and come up with 3 or 4 other words that have the same denotation, that mean the basic thing there, the basic idea of angry. Now that you've done that, some examples might be furious, enraged, livid. They all feel a little bit different, but they all mean at the most basic level the same thing. But then we get to connotation, and this is where things get interesting. Connotation is the way words feel. Different words may have the same denotation, but they feel different. They have different ideas attached to them, feelings, associations, or connections. It is, in other words, the implied meaning of a word or the charge that a word has. And it is, of course, the means by which tone, one of the most crucial concepts we'll learn about, is created. So let's take a look at this sentence right here. Okay, when we're thinking about connotation and diction, we want to think about which words have the strongest charge. So you need to be pushy when you are looking for a job. Well, what should be jumping out at you right away is the word pushy. It feels a little bit more intense than the other words. It has a stronger connotation than anything else in the sentence. But let's really break it down even more. Here we have 3 examples, which all have the same denotation. Vintage, old, and decrepit. Okay? However, they all have different charges. They have different connotations. Vintage has a positive charge. It's a more positive word. It makes us think of something that's old, but has value. Old is generally more neutral, something that has age. We might use this to describe anything without really feeling positively or negatively about it. Although in some cases it can definitely be used with a negative charge. And then we have the word decrepit. Now this has got a negative connotation. If we're using the word decrepit to describe something that has age, we're really saying that that thing is old and gross and terrible and kind of broken down. That's a different charge. Or let's go back to those initial words that we looked at with denotation. Smarty pants, genius, and nerd. Okay? They all have different feelings. So smarty pants feels like someone who's clever, but a bit of a know-it-all. Genius implies someone who is naturally and breathtakingly brilliant. And nerd implies somebody who is obsessive over academics. All of them have different implied meanings. You could probably even break these down into positive, negative, and neutral if you wanted. I would say nerd is more negative, smarty pants is more negative, genius is more positive. None of them really have a neutral charge. But let's go ahead and try this on our own. You can pause again here, and we've got 3 words: different, weird, and unique. Go ahead and put those into a positive, a neutral, and a negative. So what you should have come up with is unique has a more positive connotation. When we think of things that are unique, we think of things that are special. Different has a much more neutral connotation. We just think things are different. They're not alike. We toss it out pretty casually. And then the word weird has a very negative connotation, all right? We call things weird when they're strange and foreign and unnatural seeming to us. But why do we have to think about all of this connotation stuff? Well, the reason is connotation creates both mood and atmosphere and tone. So mood and atmosphere basically mean the same thing. They mean the emotions the reader experiences as a result of the writer's diction. That's important. It's the emotions that the reader experiences. The reader experiences. So if we're looking at this right here, nearly skipping into the room, her face glowed as she showed her shining, beautiful engagement ring. What feelings are you filled with as a reader of this? What words are setting that off? What atmosphere is created? Well, I would say that a joyful, excited, or happy atmosphere is created. It feels nice to us, and it fills us with positive emotions. That's our mood. That's our atmosphere. But then we get to tone. Tone is a little bit different. It is the writer or speaker's attitude towards whatever it is they are talking about. It's the way the writer feels about what they are writing about, speaking about, singing about, or whatever. It's their opinion of their topic. And that is once again created through the connotation of a writer's or speaker's diction. And it should be described with adjectives. Notice how different these are from our last one. Disgusted, curious, critical, sarcastic. You can't have a sarcastic mood, but you can feel sarcastically about something. That's the different way that we describe tone and mood. Let's go ahead and take a look again there. Joyful, excited, happy. All describe emotions. Now, emotions can definitely describe a tone, but they can be more specific too. Like curious. Curious is not necessarily a mood. Critical is not a mood. Sarcastic is not a mood, but they describe the way the writer or speaker feels about what they're talking about. Let's take a look at these 2 sentences here. The floral aroma of the spring roses pleased him, versus the sweet smell of the spring roses overjoyed him. Well, how do these feel different? They have the same denotation, but that connotation is different. The second one is much more intense, stronger, more positive because of the connotation of the word overjoyed versus pleased. It's much stronger, more positive. Or let's take a look at this guy right here. The treadmill began to whir, and I gripped its handlebars as the belt started moving me backwards. All I could do now was run, or begrudgingly barrel forward toward an outdated screen that showed me the terrain I was supposed to be running on. It was made of red squares stacked up, one on top of another. The higher stacks were supposed to be steep hills, and the lower ones valleys. I tried to picture them as burning coals to see if that would make me speed up or at least feel like this exercise was somehow connected to nature, even one of its cruel parts. So tons of connotation in there, tons of things, words that are telling us how our writer feels about what they're discussing. So pause for a minute and just take a look. What are you noticing? What words are telling you the tone? Here I've got some pointed out for us here. Ideas like begrudgingly barrel forward, outdated. I was supposed to, suppose, the repetition of the word supposed. Burning coals, somehow, almost said sarcastically, and even one of its cruel parts, all lead me to believe that this writer feels annoyed, disgusted, or disappointed about this experience. That is our connotation. That is our tone, the writer's attitude. Okay, why do we want to understand tone, though? Well, it's super useful in helping us understand the writer's perspective of what they're talking about. If we can understand their perspective, then we can better determine the points that they're making. And it also helps us understand the writer's opinions about concepts and themes that they are exploring. So it helps us have a better, more articulate understanding of the point they are making, the theme they are expressing. All right, guys. So that's our quick breakdown of this. We will talk about it in the very near future. Go ahead and polish off those activities at the bottom of your note document. We will see you soon. Have a great day.